Welcome to the Occult Rejects. In this episode, you got me and my boy Headless Giant, and as far as I know now, I would assume it's just going to be us two the whole time. But I mean, you never know. But hey, it's the first day of the new series. We're going to be trying. Well, we're going to cover 777 by Aleister Crowley as best as we can. From our experiences of using it, or if there's things that come up in there that we have experience with, we will go on with it. And some stuff that we don't have experience, we'll obviously read over it just so you get an idea of what's in there. Me and Headless were even saying prior to the show, I do think a lot of people are actually misunderstood about what's actually inside this book. Not saying I'm promoting it and saying everybody go out and get it and start reading it like a Bible, but I don't think there's probably as many dicks and demons in here as everybody thinks there is.
Right.
But before we go on, is there anything you want to say about this, Headless? I know you're a big fan of this book as well. So,
well, this is Aleister Crowley's Kabbalah. So, if you're wondering about all of the associations and the worldview that Crowley had, don't go to the podcast. Go to 777 because this is going to give you sort of a view into his subconscious mind as well as his studies and all the rest of this stuff. That's why I think it's kind of important because it's shaping a whole generation of occultists, right? All the occultists of this generation had this book so that they could have those associations on hand. This is the ultimate reference guide for the Crowleyan point of view. So
yeah.
that's why we're covering it.
And if there's any, I guarantee you, if there's any witches in chat or Wiccans in chat that don't even like Crowley, some of you out there might even be able to contest and say, I still use that book. I have heard that so many times from people in the witchcraft and occult community. I don't like Crowley, but I still use his 777. I've known Wiccas that have, witches that are into, typical ceremonial magic, still use that book. So obviously, it's an impact regardless if you think it's real or not. You know what I'm saying? It has influenced a huge chunk of ceremonial practices since this came out.
Right. Early 1900s. So it's still having influence today. We're still reading it to you guys. So it's probably going to shape some of those subconscious associations yourself. But one of the other things I wanted to cover is you can follow along too. I put the link in the chat, but if you can't find it there, you can also look on Internet Archive 777 and you'll find it there as well. So it's free if you want to get your hands on it.
Yes. And one thing I do want to mention that Young Stitches 8 over here said, or 88, or 8 Young Stitches 8. This is before Thelema, so it's pre-Aeonic. So, I mean, it was before he became who he became, I guess. So, all right. Do you want me to start it off?
Oh, sure.
All right. Yeah, we'll pull it up, too. Let you guys see it here. Maybe I can blow it up a little bit, make it look a little bit better for you guys. But I do highly suggest, if you can, to grab the PDF of the book and read along with it. All right, here we go. Oh, take these glasses off of this. This is a unique collection of Kabbalistic texts without parallel in the entire history of this vast mystical literature. All of them belong to the very early professional career of Aleister Crowley. That is, they were written before he had reached the age of 40 years. As every student of the Crowley corpus of writings should know, however, they were used constantly and continuously by him throughout his lifetime. So, I mean, I would hope if he put this out, he adhered to his own work, but they're even saying he used it himself.
Right. Absolutely. In the obscure footnotes to The Vision and the Voice, Sangreal Foundation, Dallas, 1972, that's an important place there.
Yeah.
Alice in the 1960s. Interesting. Which I recently edited, it soon became evident that a few of those explanatory notes of his would make rhyme or reason to the average student unless he were exceedingly well-grounded in the material and methods delineated in those books. All three need to be studied studiously over a long period of time before those footnotes become intelligible to any degree, or until the intrinsic value of the text themselves is perceived as being of the purest gold. Little alchemy for you.
Yeah. One thing I do want to mention, that it's interesting. They said The Vision and the Voice, Dallas, 1972. As far as I know, if this is talking about what they're talking about, The vision and the voice is now located in Austin, Texas, in a different library, but you can go there and see his handwritten notes. I do have a fuck ton of pictures and video of it, and I am thinking about possibly showing it. But if you have the chance to go down there and look at that, you will see him literally doing gematria, fitting words in. He's using that word rose, and he's doing the math for it. He's not talking about his girl all the time. He is doing something else when he says her name sometimes. You can see that. I will even say, for the SJWs out there who cuck for Crowley, there's some stuff you might see him writing in there that might offend you. Some, offensive names for certain types of people. He may not be the great man you thought he was. He was just like everybody else.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah. The first of these three texts is actually one of the installments from the Equinox, the fifth, containing a biographical serial entitled "The Temple of King Solomon." The serial strove to present a more or less dynamic picture of the personality of Aleister Crowley, or Frater Perturabo, which is something he called himself, Perturabo. He's called himself the Beast and a few other names, I think, to use his order name in the course of his progress along the mystical and magical path. The first few installments were written by one of his major disciples of the first decade of this century, Captain, later General J.F.C. Fuller. After a while, these two men separated as narrated in the Confessions of Aleister Crowley. The result was that Crowley, being left in the lurch, as it were, wrote the fifth installment as a kind of filler, enabling him to find time to resume the narrative of his attainment interrupted by Fuller's departure. That's fine. That reminds me, it's like sometimes it just sounds shitty. Sometimes I'll do like filler shows while I'm in between, like trying to do more in-depth ones. It's like, yeah, I kind of get what you're getting at, dude. Oh, sorry.
Also, we left out the part that this is a forward written by Israel Regarde. So I've got.
Oh yeah.
Alchemist Handbook also has a forward written by Israel Regarde. So he's getting all over back then. He's got his hand in everything. So the filler has nothing to do.
He might have had his hand in Aleister Crowley at one point.
At some point, might have. The filler has nothing to do in reality with the biographical narrative. It consisted of a set of Kabbalistic and pragmatic notes on number that Crowley had accumulated over the years, which he now tied together for his purposes. It consisted of a study of one phase of the Kabbalistic process, which is held in rather poor esteem today, mostly so, I believe, because the majority of the modern writers have not been able to penetrate its mystery. They cannot cope with it in any way. They regard it, unfortunately, on par with common practice of numerology and fortune telling, thus missing the boat entirely.
Gematria, as this process is named, is pronounced as Mutria. As a method, it reminds me somewhat of the mystery surrounding the usage of the Koan, Koan, in the Rinzai sect of Zen, Rinzai sect of Zen. It seems at first sight, nothing but perfect nonsense. This taking liberties with names and letters and numbers. But in point of fact, just as the koan is a meaningful but not necessary rational statement made from a mystical level of consciousness, so also it may be used to induce a similar type of illumination in the determined student who uses it. Depending on the spiritual state of the reader, gematria will be perceived either as nonsense of the most grotesque description, or it will awaken some simulacrum of the mystical state originally experienced by its writer. That's interesting.
So he's having these illumination experiences and saying that understanding the gematria in a certain frame of mind can induce the same similar state of consciousness. Very interesting. Let me see. If you study Crowley exposition of the number 418 in this book, gematria, for example, something of this high point of view may be perceived. It was not arbitrarily chosen as an important or significant number for him, or for that matter, anyone else. And so, with many other numbers, this method does have definite sphere of usefulness and a vital place in Kabbalistic uh, exegetical process, but it does require to be understood.
Yeah, I don't like that word either. Exegetical. Whatever. Um, Never for one moment suspect Crowley of gullibility or or being naive. It may seem at first sight as if he were, but read the first few pages of the essay on Gematria, where you will notice his satire, his ridicule, and his humor. This should never be ignored or minimized. He never had difficulty poking fun at himself or the methods he used for different purposes. It saved him from being gullible and credulity, the curse of the average occult student. Some of his conclusions on his numerical manipulations, therefore, are entitled, at the very least, to some scrutiny and examination, and this in turn may lead to respect. For example, I have always been profoundly impressed by his handling of the number 913, Equinox 1, number 5, page 107. It is the gematria of, God, this name, Bereshith.
Barasheth.
Bereshith, a Hebrew word meaning the beginning, the first word of the book of Genesis. He starts with a discussion of the number 9 and reduces it by several brilliant permutations and attributions to 1, stating that the many being but veils of the one, and the course of argument leads one to knowledge and worship of each number in turn. In concluding, the lengthy analysis he does state explicitly that 9 is not equal to 1 for the neophyte. These equivalences are dogmatic and only true by favor of him in whom all is truth. So,
Any man who can write thus of a subject which is taboo because capable of infinite abuse, and which has earned the contempt of several reasonable students of the mysteries, is worthy of respect and consideration. Right to the end of his days, Crowley felt that this gematria was a most useful tool and tested many of his theoretical and intuitive feelings relative to the Book of the Law against the manipulation and inspiration of gematria. I must say that I am in complete accord with him in this respect, as testified by my earliest piece of writing, A Garden of Pomegranates, in which there is a chapter on gematria.
the second of these, Liber 777, has been reprinted several times in recent years. All of the new editions improved on the first one, which is rare nowadays and most expensive, by the inclusion of many short essays and commentaries written at various times of Crowley, and added skillfully by the editor after Crowley's demise in 1947. I'll read the next one too. The book was first started in 1907, shortly after his return from the China expedition. It is humorously referred to in the second essay in Knox on Pox, where there are references to the table of correspondences in preparation. In point of fact, these tables of correspondences, which comprise Liber 77 and which were not published until 1909, consist of basic information provided originally piecemeal in the knowledge lectures of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Predicated on his own further studies and experiences, they were enormously expanded by Crowley so that, at first sight, they bear little resemblance to the fragmented tables in the Golden Dawn.
There is a wealth of valuable material here just waiting to be used. Many writers have done so without due acknowledgement. This book provides a basic system or method of filling new information on any topic and subject. The filing system is predicated on a mere 32 categories, the 10 Sephiroth of the Tree of Life, and the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Once this schema is understood, any new set of data of any kind can be referenced to it, thus undergoing immense immediate and spontaneous organization and synthesis within the psyche. True, most of the material relates to comparative religion and mythology, including precious stones, herbs, plants, and a multitude of other matters. Because these compromise the basic notions currently employed, one should not feel limited only to these topics. At one time, I experimented allocating the elements on the atomic scale to this tree with some modicum of success. Somewhere along the lines, it's so funny because the entire periodic table is set up with numbers and weights based off of the entire Kabbalah tree. And they're all named after Greek gods, too. Go figure. And guess what? The number of those Greek gods also corresponds with those elements. So he's being either modest or lying his butt off. Any occultist would know.
Yeah, right. One thing I would like to add, I have come across, but it was a long time ago. If there's any listeners, or if you yourself, or other shows, if you know anybody who's really good with the element table, with tying it to occult stuff, please let us know. I'd love to get somebody on like that. I mean, I've seen it done, but it was so long ago, I can't remember the channel that I saw that was doing it.
The occult elements, that would be fantastic. There's so many good ones too.
And another thing I just want to mention, like he just said right here, as he's tying it to the the elements, like, like these people over and over again do reference to science, and people just ignore it. These guys are into occult science. They're telling you right here.
Absolutely. Let me see. Somewhere along the line in the course of my many travels, this set of attributions has got lost, and I never made another attempt to duplicate it. It is mentioned here, though, in the hope that this enterprising students will realize the enormous potentialities which lie ahead when using the Tree of Life in this way. So what they're talking about is a memory palace, the same sort of thing that Nick is covering in his series on the guy who was burnt at the stake.
Yeah.
Giordano Bruno. Yeah, so Giordano Bruno used the same sort of method to create a memory palace in which people would accuse him of being a witch because his memory was so damn good. He had photographic comprehension and recall of everything he ever saw using this methodology.
Yeah, he impressed, I forgot somebody, King Henry, one of them, or somebody. He impressed somebody, and they gave him money. They said like he was almost like encyclopedic, like fucking kid, like almost like memorized crazy shit like that. And he swore it was literally from staring at certain sigils and certain Hebrew letters and like just going around in a fucking wheel. After 6 months, he says it should work. Imagine that shit works and people out there actually know it.
Right.
People who
Liber
still have
77
shit have it.
That's right. And that was one of the things that was hard to find. Like they had to reconstruct it because they didn't get a hold of it. Right. Liber 777 created a new type of literature when it first appeared. It was the first of its kind, and Crowley deserves credit for that, even if some of the material itself is not original. A lot of it is not original.
Yeah, that's right. LBRP and the hexagram, it's not his. A lot of people, again, but people probably like, how you covering Crowley and you're constantly shitting on him? It's just the fact that like too many people give this guy too much credit, unfortunately, in different ways. Put it that way. When they want to shit on him, they blame him for every fucking specific, ritual out there. Every ritual out there, Crowley did it. Crowley did it. Crowley did it. No, we didn't. Get over yourself.
Right. So let's see here.
Yeah, it's my turn. You ended up being an extra one. In order to get some theoretical idea of the Kabbalah as a philosophical schema, there are some modern books outside the Crowley corpus which could be consulted to considerable advantage. Of course, they're going to talk about Dion Fortune. First of all, there's Dion Fortune's masterpiece, The Mystical Kabbalah, which I will suggest is a good book, which is similarly based on the Golden Dawn material. Its value lies in the manner in which she has considered each item and each detail with an exposition which ties them all together intelligibly. I'll do the next one just to parallel this to William Gary's Ladder of Lights, which is another elucidation of the tree from a different viewpoint, but equally illuminating. Both of these books are limited, however, merely to a study of the 10 Sephiroth, the main categories of the tree. Supplementing these, this is another amazing book. So I'm actually wondering if this is how I came across the guy's book. Supplementing these is Gareth Knight's practical course in Kabbalistic symbolism. Honestly, when anybody ever does ask me for books on the Kabbalah, that's the one I send them as a PDF. So if people are interested in it, I highly suggest that because it touches on the paths besides the spheres. Huge, I think, which extends the scope.
I still got them all highlighted.
which extends the scope of the previous 2 books. By studying these 3 books, good background material should be provided from which to learn to appreciate the enormously valuable task performed by Crowley and Liber 77 several decades ago. The student, you know what's funny? That they're even suggesting that book. That guy does shit on Crowley a few times, and they're saying he's wrong. He doesn't agree with his the way he looks at it. So that's impressive that they're even suggesting someone like that. The student can accept as much or as little of the philosophy described in the above named books as he wishes. It does not matter so long as the basic schema is understood and applied to Liber 77. I foresee but little difficulty in this task.
The 3rd volume included here is Sepher Sephiroth, which means simply the Book of Numbers. It is extrapolated from Equinox 1, number 8. Originally, the book was started by Alan Bennett, one of the Golden Dawn adepts who took Crowley under his wing, grounded him in the fundamental process of magic, Kabbalah, and meditation. He must have been the most extraordinary man, for his mark on Crowley proved to be indelible. And there are a few whom this may be said, because he was such a narcissist. Alan left 1 or 2 other pieces of writing, which Crowley reproduced in one or another or several volumes in the Equinoxes. They are worthy of being referred to. A note on Genesis is a brilliant piece of exposition of Kabbalistic principles, demonstrating the whole gamut of Golden Dawn teachings, including some of the Kabbalistic methods described here. For this reason alone, it should be studied. The other was written after he had abandoned the order to become a Buddhist monk with the sacramental name of Bhikkhu, Ananda Mitya. It is entitled The Training of the Mind, a study of the Buddhist way of life. Both essays show a fine caliber of his mind, demonstrating why Crowley was so profoundly impressed by him. Anyway, this book is due in large measure to the efforts which Crowley continued.
Sepher Sephiroth consists of hundreds of Hebrew words selected from several sources that are listed in the front of the text. Most of the words are from the Old Testament and a couple of non-Zoric texts translated by McGregor Mathers under the title of the Kabbalah Unveiled. It's a good one, too. From the Latin edition of Nora von Rosenroth. These words are arranged according to their numerical value by Bennett. The process and additional words were continued by Crowley after he had inherited the book from his mentor. There are some strange Gematria combinations to be found there, but it is traditionally assumed that if 2 words have the same number value, a connection of some kind may be said to exist between them. At first sight, in some instances, no such relationship may be perceived, but if the student persists in his study and meditation, he may come to realize something of the profundities of these subtle connections and associations that are not immediately perceived. I have taken the liberty of deleting a table of factor, which in reality has nothing whatsoever to do with Sepher Sephiroth. In my opinion, it is one of the occasional examples of Crowley's in exhibitionism. Sometimes he just had to demonstrate his erudition. Much the same is true of many numbers in the last few pages of the text, save for a few with their corresponding Hebrew words that could be condensed and brought closer together. These pages are omitted because there are no corresponding Hebrew word. There are no corresponding Hebrew words listed. For the time being, they are just a waste of space and paper.
Well, it is true that the serious student, what's that?
I said they still should have left it in there. I would have let it's probably like him figuring shit out, like I was saying about the vision and the voice. You know what I'm saying? Or it's like
I got a footnote here. I got a footnote on mine that says this table is included in the by the publisher in the 3rd edition in 1975. So they actually did leave it in.
Okay, nice. Sorry.
Let me see. While it is true that the serious student might study other Kabbalistic texts and in the future discover new Hebrew words having a numerical value that corresponds to those that I have now just I have just now deleted. Nevertheless, he should make his own additions to Sepher Sephiroth, insert new strings of numbers to make a place for his newly found words. And that is it should be, and that is as it should be. There should be nothing fixed or rigid about any of these three books. They can be supplemented and expanded by the explorations of each student depending on his own judgment and ingenuity. But he must not fall into the pitfall of some modern writers who, having no sympathy or understanding of the process, decry it and declare it of little value in the Kabbalistic scheme of things.
Ooh.
I am also omitting Crowley's preface to the book. It is a nasty, malicious piece of writing, and it does not do justice to the system with which he is dealing. Every so often, Crowley falls from one of the heights which he has seen and swallows someone else's folly, someone whom he had the occasion to admire, in this case, Sir Richard Burton, not always a wholly reliable authority outside the Arabian Nights.
The essay on Gematria and Sepher Sephiroth should be studied together. Some of the profundities of the first will never be perceived until one has meditated long and often on some of the words analyzed in that essay. I must confess that every now and again during the course of my life, I have experienced a thoroughgoing revulsion to Crowley as a person, resulting in the total rejection and neglect of what he has written. Days, weeks, months, or years may elapse. Then accidentally I stumble across something he wrote, such as Gematria, and become so engrossed and enamored of his ingenuity and inspiration that my revulsion becomes almost immediately transcended. This is probably more true of Gematria than either of the two here included. The student who has missed the excitement and inner elevation experienced by Gematria, whether of his own making or merely reading Crowley, has missed a very great deal. Do you want me to keep
One
going?
scholar recently, I can hit it. One scholar recently suggested to me that Crowley's knowledge of Hebrew was most limited. He made a very impressive showing only. In some ways, I'm inclined to agree, but on the other hand, what little he did know, he has used extremely effectively and creatively. Anyways, he was not a dull bluffer like Arthur Edward Waite, who pretended all sorts of linguistic and scholastic skills. He, in fact, never had. Take, for example, his.
There you go.
Sorry about that. Take, for example, his book, The Secret Doctrine in Israel, which is a lengthy analysis of the Zohar. That book was not written until after a French translation of the Zohar had been made, and of course, long been before the English one had appeared. The footnotes bear ample testimony to this conclusion, yet he pretended years prior to that book that his Latin and Hebrew were more than adequate to the task, although they were not. Even his Latin translations of many alchemical texts were merely good editing jobs, the translators having been, amongst others, some elderly Anglican priests preferring to remain, if not anonymous, then in obscurity, who had got mixed up in the Golden Dawn and the occult arts in general. They did the donkey work of translating donkey. Remember the donkey?
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Yep. Translating difficult material, but Waite got all the glory and the swollen head. Whatever may be said of Aleister Crowley's inflated ego, and I have often said perhaps too much about this, he never stooped quite that low. Very interesting.
Yeah, right.
Ancient gossip.
He's even saying Crowley's fucked up, and this motherfucker was worse. All of this makes the book, The Kabbalah of Aleister Crowley, a greater interest to the average good student whose Hebrew may be no better or no worse than that of Crowley. It may give him heart to pursue his own personal addenda to those books and become as good a Kabbalist as was Crowley. Finally, let me add that the student should own a good Hebrew-English lexicon. Perhaps one of the best ways of using this is to browse through it at random, casually as it were, and then as his interest and excitement mount, look for certain words deliberately and methodically. For example, open the lexicon at random and on that particular page, point carelessly to the first word noticed. Transfer the word and its translation to a sheet of paper and then work out its gematria. Then turn to Sepher Sephiroth to see if that number and word are represented. If not, add them using page inserts if necessary. Make special entries of such words. As time proceeds, certain other words will evoke special interest and should be treated in the same manner. Try to follow Crowley's analysis of what was that name? Bereshith again? Bereshith, you said? In the essay Gematria as a model for the management of these words and as the basis for meditation to lead to the highest. That's interesting that he had you are muted there, Headless. It's interesting that he's mentioning that I for all I know, I either don't remember, but the way they're explaining it, I was like, is that what I was trying to do with my gematria? You know how I have that like gematria thing up on the site and I did want to put it into a book? It was actually kind of like you're being able to take the numerical value and run it to that book to see what it matches. That was kind of the way I had it. So that's interesting to know. I guess you could do that with one of his.
Right, but they're going for a type of libromancy here. So you're just opening the lexicon at random and then working through it like it's an exercise. But in the process, you're going to get a lot of meaning that you can see through. But also, we've got the gematria calculator now, which is like 10 times easier than what they're suggesting in this book.
Yeah. You imagine that back in the day, you had to write everything down and figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Here are a couple of examples. I opened the lexicon at random and selected two words. A variety of Kabbalistic methods may be used to elaborate on them. Practice will produce the skill and insight. The first word selected and was one meaning empty. In Hebrew, it is spelled N-U-N, Nun, Ayin, Vav, Rash. Thus, its gematria is 50, 70, 6, and 200, totaling 326. This is a number that is listed in the Sepher Sephiroth and surprisingly is that of Yeshua, Redeemer. The word for vision also comes within the purview of this number. Our lexicon word empty may seem a far cry from any of those other words just mentioned, but see what little meditation can do, having followed the similar procedure used by Aleister Crowley relative to Bereshith. Yes, a lot of Gnostic Christians believe Christ is emptiness because of that word. Another word selected at random, defect or want. In Hebrew, this is spelled Chech, Simach, Resh, Vav, final nun. Its gematria comes to 324, counting the nun as 50. This too is another number already in Sepher Sephiroth, but it is worth comparing with the words already given there. Redness, darkness, roaring, etc. All three of these Kabbalistic texts must be consulted to make sense of these apparently unrelated words and numbers. The process thus becomes a test for one's Kabbalistic knowledge and skill. But more importantly, the process becomes a stimulus for the surrender of the mind to the mystical experience, which the one is seen to be all and vice versa. Back to the experiencing this in altered frame of consciousness.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just finish it out here.
You want to have the pleasure and just finish it off.
All right. There are simply no limits to be set to the applications of these numerical processes. It will take only a little patience and experience for the sincere and ingenious student to become aware of the possibilities inherent in the gematria, and he will conclude by developing a fine appreciation for the value individually and collectively of these three books assembled for the first time as the Kabbalah of Aleister Crowley, that is, written by Israel Regardie. You know, we should combine this with some of the great gematria people that we've had on the show throughout the years. I think they would love this.
Yeah. And and you know what? Unfortunately, is because of the fear of the man. They would never actually probably read any of his shit. No, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, I'm going to keep it real. There's some people that we've had on the show that do Gematria that use fucking Aleister Crowley every other week as a fucking bad guy and someone to point at. And it's his fucking ritual and his fucking Gematria. They would never look at his shit.
Right.
They're too busy shitting on him.
Right. As they're using it.
I mean, just keeping it real.
As they're using it, they're shitting on him. So it's kind of an interesting bag.
That is funny, right?
Arthur Edward Waite.
Yeah.
Arthur Edward Waite. Just like what Israel just said about Arthur Edward Waite.
Do you want to wait till next week to actually start the Gematria and just stop here? It's up to you. I don't know if you want to continue. Or
I think this is a pretty good introduction. I think a lot more people are interested in this. So let's leave them wanting more. We'll come back next week and definitely get into it a lot more. But I think this is a good length. You know, about 35 minutes, one chapter a day.
Yeah. And I do think, again, like a reason, like I even said to Headless, we were both, we both agreed that doing the introduction and obviously the Gematria, I mean, it's the book, but it's, again, a lot of people knock Gematria. I mean, maybe it's just because I'm a fan of it, but I actually do think there is something into it. I mean, I'll even put it this way. If you don't want to believe it doesn't really mean anything, I guarantee you that the people who do believe it means something do cipher their shit at times. So regardless if it means anything magical, you're not going to understand their stuff because you're not deciphering it. Yeah, I ain't either because I ain't figuring out the cipher either. But there's stuff where I guarantee you it's ciphered. So knowing Gematria would help with that.
And a lot of people, like, we're just starting to get into the not Socratic, but the Neoplatonist view of these chains, right? The Neoplatonist view of these chains that are all connected to the one, coming down to the many through all these associations and stuff. That's where Kabbalah gets its power. It's like unseen chains linking these ideas and these thoughts together through altered states of consciousness. So what a lot of people are getting out of this is going to be personal to them, right? But it is an interesting painting that they're using numbers and words, right? So it is an individual expression, but at the same time, there's a deeper meaning and a deeper connectedness you can get out of it. If you think about it more like an art than a science, you can kind of see what I'm thinking.
Yes. And I've even mentioned on the show before, if you go back to, I think we did a 3-part Gematria series, guys, almost 2 years ago. There was a point where I was reading and it was stuff that, I got online. I wasn't making it up. It's been known that in the past, to translate some different languages from one to the other, I don't know how it was done. They used Gematria. I mean, they said that. I mean, I don't know how the fuck to do that either, but obviously they were. And I think, honestly, if I remember correctly, that's even how they started even getting some of the Islamic shit figured out, because that shit was on and popping for alchemy, and they were trying to figure out what the fuck they were saying in their text.
Every alphabet has the same numerical cipher. So you've got the A, B's, and C's all front loaded in all these different alphabets: Latin, Greek, Hebrew, all of these alphabets have the same starting points, and those same starting points have the same numbers. For instance, in Greek didn't have separate symbols for numbers. Their numbers were their letters with an extra symbol on top. So that's what you're seeing when it comes to the number and letter combination that was called isopsophy before they were doing it all in Hebrew. Now, the problem with isopsophy is that people don't want to go through the work of learning Greek because there's a lot to it. There's a fuck ton to it, actually. And then you got the different dialects. So it makes more sense to have it in Hebrew. I just like the Greek better, Yeah. I can pronounce it better. I've looked into it more, but it's a preference.
Yes. One thing I do want to mention, I don't know if it would be an issue. I've had the issue before. It was a little bit differently. I was reading the secret rituals of the OTO. I could understand getting slapped with a copyright infringement on that. Believe it or not, the OTO actually did hit me with a DMCA. This, I don't know if it happens with this and it gets taken down on YouTube, I will continue to do it, or at least on Rumble, BitChute, and audio. I won't let that stop me. So, I'm just saying, if it happens to be a problem, because I don't know what happened when my Facebook came down already. I doubt it's due to copyright infringement, but who knows? Yeah, I'm just letting people know if it's an issue, I'm going to keep going with it, just not on YouTube.
Right. Well, it is on Internet Archive, so I think the trademark or copyright is expired. So
yeah. Oh yeah, one would think, but you never know. Have to worry
never
about
know.
Kitty hit me with another DMCA. What's crazy is I personally knew the fucking person who did that to me. As it was, the girl was in my lodge. She was a lawyer for the OTO. I know exactly who slapped me with that DMCA. So, I tried contacting them so I can go over the vision of the voice. I didn't get a fucking answer. I was like, I didn't think so. Because I know if I cover that vision in the voice, they could hit me with the copyright then. They told the person who went and filmed it was already told you can't show that online unless you ask for permission. And when she asked for the information to ask for permission, it was the same fucking lady that hit me with the DMCA copyright. I was like, fuck, this ain't going to work. All right. But yeah.
Well, this should be interesting.
Yeah. I'm just letting people know if it becomes an issue with that stuff, I will try to keep it going as long as I can. And honestly, for real, people that are really into this stuff, share it. Please share it out. If you're in any occult discords, share it, because I'll be totally honest with you. I've lost mods and I have lost some listeners from starting to cover more of the occult. So maybe it would help if I actually got some more of occultists to listen to my show instead of scared conspiracy theorists. So yeah, hook a brother up and send some links out there if you can.
Absolutely. If you're in any groups on Facebook that have lots and lots of people, there are a bunch of occult groups on Facebook. Share it in those groups. That's what I've been doing. So
exactly.
Look at those people here. Reddit as well. We're not on Reddit, and we're mostly not on Facebook, but Reddit's a great place to share it too.
No, there's somebody did make a Reddit for us, actually.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not, if you search for us, our name does pop on there a few times. Even the whole whatever the problem I had with tinfoil hat, that even comes up on Reddit if you check. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, if there's a Reddit out there and somebody happens to see it, I don't know, throw us a comment or add something or whatever. But I don't keep an eye on it. A fan made it for us, but I can't even get into it. But yeah, share this out and yeah, help us hook a brother up with some new listeners and shit. So, all right, you good, Headless?
I'm good. This has been a great episode. Guys, you can catch me on Thursday where me and Nick are coming back. Send me your emails at headlessgiantpodcast@gmail.com with all of your occult, strange, esoteric stories. You know you want to. Everybody says they want to do it, but you want to do it because you want to get some stickers. I know you do.
Yes, I got a occult
send that address as well.
Yeah, I got 8 stickers that I'll send out to you. I got to keep it magical with the magician, the infinity sign number 8. And it is a artistic depiction of the inside of your eyeball. And it has a QR code on it, too, for people to scan if you happen to slap them around and tag with it. So definitely check out Headless's show on Thursday and check out his Alchemy Mondays with Euros Up as well. At some point, you might be able to catch one of them blowing themselves up. Might be worth it. No. Okay. And you know what? Headless will still come back next week trying to do it again. He'll still come back the next week trying to do it again.
It's all part of the fun.
Yes, it is.
I get the silicone tubing.
Yeah.
All of them. I'm pushing the whole button thing on the elevator.
Yeah, I thought that was
great, guys.
That was great when you said that. But yeah, that's the end of another Occult Rejects. And again, every Tuesday, hopefully around this time, if anything maybe changes with his job, etc., we might move around the time. But I think we're shooting for this every week. And yeah, check it out. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.